Power to the truth. This is Margo, and it's Tuesday, August 21st, 2018. And this article just came out from The Guardian just a few hours ago, in fact, on today, August 21st. And I'll scroll up and show you from The Guardian. Says Arctic's strongest sea ice breaks up for first time on record. And we've been reporting on this all summer, on this Arctic sea ice. And now finally it's coming out. I mean, The Guardian, it's not mainstream news like CNN and all those, but it is pretty mainstream. It publishes a lot of stuff. Usually frozen waters open up twice this year in phenomenon scientists described as scary. There's a picture. It says scientists say thinning of the sea ice has reached even the coldest parts of the Arctic. And we've seen that as well. This is written by Jonathan Watts from Tuesday, August 21st, 2018 at 4:35 Eastern Time. So this article is not very old. A couple of hours. 1 hour. Anyway, the oldest and thickest sea ice in the Arctic has started to break up, opening waters north of Greenland that are normally frozen in summer. And Robin and I reported on that a couple of days ago, and we're going to look at the sea ice again. This is just a short update this morning. This phenomenon, which has never been recorded before, has occurred twice this year due to warm winds and a climate change-driven heat wave in the northern hemisphere. And we can definitely see that heat wave on Climate Reanalyzer. One meteorologist described the loss of ice as scary. Others said it could force scientists to revise their theories about which part of the Arctic will withstand warming the longest. The sea off the north coast of Greenland is normally so frozen that it was referred to until recently as the last ice area, because it was assumed that this would be the final northern holdout against the melting effects of a hotter planet. But abnormal temperature spikes in February and earlier this month have left it vulnerable to winds which have pushed the ice further away from the coast than at any time since satellite records began in the 1970s. So here's a chart of the Arctic sea ice volume. Remember, that's different from extent. It's different from thickness, so that they're counting the whole amount of the sea ice. The volume from 1979 to 2018. And you can see we're almost at the very bottom here. I think 2012 was probably the bottom. I'm not for sure. But I'm going to go on with this article and then show you some pictures, and then we'll wrap it up. Almost all of the ice to the north of Greenland is quite shattered and broken up and therefore more mobile, said Ruth Mottram of the Danish Meteorological Institute. Open water off the north coast of Greenland is unusual. This area has often been called the last ice area, as it has been suggested that the last perennial sea ice in the Arctic will occur here. The events of the last week suggest that actually the last ice area may be further west. Ice to the north of Greenland is usually particularly compacted due to the transpolar drift stream, one of two major weather patterns that push ice from Siberia across the Arctic to the coastline where it packs. Walter Meyer, A senior research scientist at the U.S. National Snow and Ice Data Center said, "The ice there has nowhere else to go, so it piles up. On average, it's over 4 meters thick and can be piled up into ridges 20 meters thick or more. This thick, compacted ice is generally not easily moved around." However, that was not the case this past winter in February and March, and now the ice is being pushed away from the coast by the winds. Ice is easier to blow around as a result of a warming trend, which has accelerated over the past 15 years. The thinning is reaching even the coldest part of the Arctic with the thickest ice. So it's a pretty dramatic indication of the transformation of the Arctic sea ice and the Arctic climate. "Scary," wrote Thomas Laverne, a scientist at the Norwegian Meteorological Institute, in a retweet of a satellite GIF of the blue water penetrating white ice and exposing hundreds of miles of the Greenland coastline. And here's his tweet, Thomas Laverne, and it says, "So the open water / low concentration patch north for Greenland is still there and slowly moving westward. Nice and scary," from seaice.dk. And we'll run their animation. Here it is. But I'm going to show you the real deal now. Oh, there's more on this article. He said this would flush chunks of thicker ice out from the Fram or Nares Strait into warmer southern waters. "I cannot tell how long this open water patch will remain open, but even if it closes in a few days from now, the harm will be done. The thick old sea ice will have been pushed away from the coast to an area where it will melt more easily," he added. "This year's openings are driven more by wind than melting, but they have occurred during 2 temperature spikes. In February, the Cap Morris Jessup weather station in the region is usually below -20 degrees Celsius. But earlier this year there were 10 days above freezing and warm winds which unlocked the ice from the coast. Last week the crack opened again after Cap Morris Jessup briefly registered a record high of 17 degrees Celsius, and strong southerly winds picked up to 11 knots. Experts predict that coastal seas will freeze again, but probably later than normal. I think that solar heating of the water column will increase during this opening, and this will delay freeze-up and ice formation," says Rasmus Tage Tonbo, a sea ice expert at the Danish Meteorological Institute. "The latest readings by the Norwegian Ice Service show that the Arctic ice cover in the Svalbard area this week is 40% below the average for this time of year since 1981. In the past month, at least 14 days in the past month have hit record lows in this region. Although thinner ice elsewhere in the Arctic means this is unlikely to be a record low year overall, they are in line with predictions that there will be no summer ice in the Arctic Ocean at some point between 2030 and 2050. Kjeld Kvitsgaard, the Ice Service Coordinator in Denmark, said this was not the first time a gap had appeared between the shore and the main ice pack, but the one formed from 1 to 5 August was different in its extent. This event is a pretty big one going all the way to west of Cap Morris Jessup. This is unusual," he said. "As well as reducing ice cover, the ocean intrusion raises concerns of feedbacks which could tip the Earth towards a hothouse state. Freakish Arctic temperatures have alarmed climate scientists since the beginning of the year. During the sunless winter, a heat wave raised concerns that the polar vortex may be eroding. This includes the Gulf Stream, which is at its weakest level in 1,600 years due to melting Greenland ice and ocean warming. With lower circulation of water and air, water systems tend to linger longer. A dormant hot front has been blamed for record temperatures in Lapland and forest areas in Siberia, much of Scandinavia, and elsewhere in the Arctic Circle. And that's the end of that article. This is from The Guardian. You can look it up for yourself and read the article. Now, I'm going to show you what they're talking about. Here's Climate Reanalyzer from today. Here's the maximum temperatures for today over the Arctic, and you can see that most of the Arctic is above zero, and we've got a little bit of rain, which is green, and a little bit of snow, which is blue. We have quite a bit of cloud cover. Here's the sea ice and snow cover. You can see it is still retreating around. They're talking about this northern edge of Greenland, and that's where Robin and I focused on our report on Sunday, which was 2 days ago, and he was stunned. He was stunned at it. Here's the Navy website with the sea ice thickness for today, and we can see, and we've been tracking this all summer, and the purple is that's the first color up from zero is the lavender, and then going into the solid purple and then into the blue, it's about 1 meter, and then as it goes into the dark green, that's 1.5 meters. So we can see what they're talking about is this area right on this north end of Greenland, and it's pretty much ice free. You can see the huge break there, and you can see the thinness. That's what they're talking about too. And now it looks like the thickest ice is this right now. For the majority of this thickest ice is this aqua color, which is about 2 to 2.25 meters thick. And then there's a little bit of yellow here, right down here in this little nook, and that's about 3.5 to 3.75 meters thick. And we can run the Navy animation, and this is a 30-day animation for the thickness of the sea ice, and so it's 7 days prediction from today as well. So they see it thinning more and retreating more as far as extent. So here's our sea ice concentration. We can see that that's gone way down since the last time we looked at that, and it's retreating dramatically retreating. Here's the sea surface temperatures, and we can see that it's quite warm coming in from the Atlantic, and there's a huge warm area up here in off of the Siberian coast. Huge warm area that's 8 to 10 degrees Celsius, and it's warm coming in from the Pacific as well. And so with all this warm water coming in, it's actually mixing with the water underneath and making the ice melt from underneath. And we can look at the drift, and you can see the movement of the ice as well. So you can look at this yourself. You don't need me to show it to you. And also on Climate Reanalyzer, here's our 2 temperature anomaly, which does show a lot of warming, and especially here's that warm area over here off the coast of Siberia. And that East Siberia ice shelf goes all the way across there where that huge store of methane is. But we've got methane is coming up everywhere. It's just coming up everywhere. Now this is not a complete climate cast. I'm just doing an Arctic sea ice update with that report. Now here's NASA World View. This is from yesterday. All the data is not in yet from today. I'll show you what they've got so far. And all we can see from today is this little itty bitty area off of Greenland. So that area is not in yet. But it's falling apart fast. It's seriously falling apart fast. And I have my tool up for recognizing the sea ice and the cloud cover, and so where it's green there's no clouds. And also I can see the temperature over on the left wherever I put my pointer, and this temperature is like it's 272.4 degrees Kelvin right there. So that's quite warm. And I did a whole video on discovering how to read this layer that I've added on, which is the ice surface temperature layer. And this can show us where the ice temperature is warmer and where it will be melting faster, and also to differentiate where the ice is and where the clouds are, because the ice surface temperature cannot be read through clouds. So where you see the green, that's where ice is, and then we can turn that layer off and then zoom in to those areas. So here's, okay, I'll zoom out so you can get your bearings here. This is the North Pole. Here's Greenland, and this northern edge is what that article was talking about. And it's exactly what Robin and I were showing. And now they're upset because it's breaking away more to the west. It's not just breaking away over here on the east, but it's breaking away over to the west. And this used to be where that thick ice was. And we can even look, let's look back to 2014. We can go back to 2014. On this, this is the newer area of the Navy website, because they updated how they're collecting all this data and everything. And so we want to stay in this newer area so we can get a better comparison. So on August 21st of 2014, here's what the sea ice thickness looked like. So you can see a dramatic difference from that to today. And you can see that it was not coming away from the coastline. It was right up to the coastline, all the way up. And it was, it even had thicker ice right here where it is coming away and totally melted. There was thicker ice up into this green and yellow area, which was 3.5 to 3.75, and then when you get into the red, that's like 4 meters. So there's a little bit of 4-meter ice there. So you know, this is well into the melt season. By the time you get to August 21st, we have maybe another month, but like that article said, we could have a prolonged warming. And in fact, one of my YouTube subscribers has been emailing me with lots of interesting hypothetical questions, and one of his latest questions was, what if we have a prolonged summer? What if it doesn't start cooling down at the end of September? What does that mean? And I responded and I said, you know, we're really in no man's land here. We don't know how the Arctic ice is going to act this year, and we can't depend on it acting traditionally like it has in past years, because everything is different. Everything has been changed. We're seeing things that have never been seen before since they've been recording this stuff. So, you know, we're in trouble, folks. We're in big, big trouble. So here is what we're looking at is this little northern area of Greenland. I'll show you again. This is all ice-free, all cloud-free here, so we can zoom in and get a good look. Robert Scribbler did a whole video on it, or Fanny. He goes by, Fanny is his real name. Robert Scribbler is his blog name. He did a whole video on this ice lifting up. He did that video, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And so here it is. This is that old thick ice that's coming away. It's coming away. It's all broken up. And it's not just broken up and melting right there on the coast. It's going way up from there. It doesn't have any integrity. A polar bear could not sit on that ice and go fishing. Yeah, the 20th was a really good day to look at this area because there was very little cloud cover in this area. So, as I've learned, or as I'm learning how to read the sea ice, we have to kind of be an investigator and put together from one day to the next the areas that are cloud free so that we can know where to look to zoom in. So there it is. They said in that article that it was going to be moving further west, and it is. And I think they were optimistic on them saying that it was going to be ice-free by 2030 to 2050. I think it's going to be a lot sooner than that. And I'm thinking their definition of ice-free in that article is like no ice at all. But we know that blue ocean event or open water event is 15% volume of ice. And that constitutes a blue ocean event, so that they can drive their ships through here without having to have an icebreaker. So it's open water, so that they can start doing all their commerce and all their missions and, you know, whatever the hell they're going to be doing up here. But this ice has lost great integrity. You can see the long cracks. You can see the long cracks coming through. You can see the holes through the ice. There are no clouds here. You can see the cracks. This is ice here. Those are cracks. This is at 84 degrees north latitude. Here it comes on, here's the line. I can see, there's the line where it goes into clouds. So this is all ice. And you can see that's gone through to the ocean there. That's the water showing through in that dark. That's at 84. But there are areas that are further north where it's like that. So finally, somebody is reporting on this thinning of the multi-year ice, besides me and Robin and a couple of others. Look at those huge cracks. Look at that. And so just because the clouds come in doesn't mean that the cracks go away. You can assume that the whole surface is cracked up and just falling apart. It's all cracking up. That's at 85. Then here's the North Pole. Let's look at this area around the North Pole and see what's going on, and then I'm going to sign off. I've got to get ready to do some things today, but I wanted to bring this to you first thing. Okay, it's cloud free right up here around the Arctic. This is a dark area. That's I can't get real good detail there, but where it's darker like that, it's probably the ocean showing through. Probably. I can't say for sure because I can't get details there for whatever reason. But we can see this is ice. This is ice over here. So where it's the darker, that's where it's thinning. That's the ocean we're seeing through there. It's not, I mean, there's still a little bit of ice on there, but the darker means the water is showing through it. See, like right there. See, this is all ice. No clouds. This is no clouds here. All these dark areas, that's the ice showing, the water showing through. That's how thin it is. It's quite disturbing when you come to the big realization of this. And the temperature up here is 269.8 Kelvin. It's a little bit below. Here's 270.2 Kelvin. 269. So, and the freezing point for salt water is 271.5. So it's just a, you know, it's right near freezing. So with it breaking up like that, cracking, it means it's warming from underneath as well, and we've talked about that. You can see, there you go, right through there. You can see it. And even though there might be cloud cover, sometimes it's, well, that's not clouds. That's ice, and you can see it right through there. That's 86. We're in big, big trouble, folks. So I just want to remind everyone of our campfire chats this Thursday. I did a video announcement yesterday and put it up. It's going to be at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So we can talk about this stuff and talk about how you're dealing with these abrupt changes and how it's affecting your life. Time is short. Time to get your spiritual houses in order. My name is Margo. I love everyone. Till next time, go in peace. God bless. Goodbye.